You're listening to part 2 of Having the Right Attitude with Deshaun Fauntleroy and Leland Johnson. Stay tuned.
When you have that outlook, it puts you in a powerful place. It puts you in a place where, and you really are in that place where there's no losing. Mm-hmm. You kind of look forward for them to put you in a more difficult situation so you can go, see, I showed you, motherfucker. I told you, and it's fun when those situations are put before you as a trainer and you overcome them. You overcome those situations because you can see the person that's watching you and watching how you deal with it. You can see their attitude change. You know what I'm saying? It became a cool thing for me to sit back and watch Eric Musselman have complete respect for my total approach of how I dealt with my son and how I dealt with my athlete, and for him to understand that wasn't the only situation, but I had other situations and with athletes in other sports.
Let me ask you this about Coach Muss, Leland. Did you ever feel like he felt like you was blowing smoke about your son and about your training methods? And do you ever feel like, okay, there's a test coming to see if maybe he's coddling or you're the coddling father, but you're coming off a certain way?
If you have the relationship that I have with my son, the first thing you better think that coach is looking at you like, okay, he's coddling his son. You better think that. Already come with that as a given.
I heard he cussed Jazz out a few times.
Oh yeah, he did. But he also hit him up with this at one point in time during the season. He looked at him and said, "You know what, man? I love cussing at you because you can deal with it."
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's what I'm looking for.
That comes from me in several training sessions back to when he was a little kid. Me as a dad, when there was a moment that I felt like he had to step it up, my little thing was I would say, and Richard Bonton would always laugh at this. I go, okay, superstar, let's see what you got, superstar. Step it up, superstar. Superstar, come on, man. When you hear me start badgering that out, he's knowing what I'm saying is this. There's moments here in this game where you're being challenged. I don't think you're stepping it up.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Those small pressures I always...
Pressures. That's what I was thinking. Pressures.
Those small pressures I always put on them. Here's the flip side to that, though. You got to remain in that moment when you do those types of things so that when the competition is over, you can go back and talk about that. Do you know why I said that? Do you know why I called you out like that? Because this is what people are going to do to you later on to try to stop you from doing what it is that you love. Whether it be a fan in the stands, whether it be a coach on the bench, whether it be a coach from the opposing team or whether it be a coach on your team.
There's going to be some resistance.
There's going to be some resistance. So what you have to show them is, one, I'm not going to waste time thinking about what you're trying to do. And in a funny way, you're going, I know what you're doing, but this is what I'm doing.
That's right. And ultimately, and this is where we bring it back together as far as teaching kids how to have a right attitude through times of positivity and through times of difficulty, or when you win or when you lose, is that this is teaching life skills.
Yeah, true.
To be responsible, to have some humility. We talked about this last week. Being responsible and having humility, it goes with winning, it goes with losing, it goes with learning.
And that was in this this chapter, Travis he touched on that.
Yeah, we've been discussing Travis Doherty's book, The Lens. Shout out to Travis Doherty.
Shout out, Trav.
Long time Indiana high school coach. I think 15 plus years. You know, he's been interviewed on the show before on the audio version. You can find that on sportsmastery.com. Go to the archives. You know, but Travis, he has what he calls 8 to 9 hidden talents in his book. And what we're discussing today is having a positive attitude. It's a hidden talent.
Right.
People look for the tall athlete. They look for the fast athlete. They look for the strong athlete. But we're talking about talents that are inside of you.
And the weird part about his book is he starts to talk about that hidden talent, like on the in the one of the last chapters of the book, in the 12th chapter. But in actuality, it should be like the number one trait.
It's having the right attitude, having a positive attitude, having a good attitude through thick and thin. And it's tough at times.
Yeah.
You know, I'm telling you, I really hate losing. And I've had my share of antics. But one thing I've learned is that in coaching, we've always suffered. When I was a part of a team, we always suffered. If we decided to tone it down as far as the competition, if we decided to tone it down where we wasn't going to raise our voice,
right.
If we toned it down, if we started listening to too many freaking sports parents,
right.
and we went away from intense competition, we suffered.
Right.
But every time that we demanded discipline, order, and respect, and created intense and competitive situations from the quarterback on down, that's why we won those 2 tournaments.
Now this is what people may mix things up. When you say intense, a lot of people think intense. Okay, that means they're gonna be getting physical at some point. It's gonna be a lot of.
Well, let me explain right quick. And what I mean by intense is you're competing every single play. You come on the field, soon as you get there, you're 15, 30, 40 minutes before, there's no horseplay. If there's any small talk, we're talking about the issues of practice, the issues of the day, and there's going to be constant competition where we're competing.
Mental intensity.
It's a mental intensity that if you made a mistake, okay, let's figure out why you made a mistake. Let's talk over here. But somebody else is going in. You have to know that there's going to be a certain amount of pressure. And I'm talking about outcomes. You have to catch the ball. You have to run the route. If you're the quarterback, you have to throw the right route or read the defense appropriately. Else you're going to come out.
That's right.
But it's not a shot against your personality or your character or anything. We're just holding you accountable, and this is going to take you somewhere in the long run.
You have to be prepared for the moment. You have to be prepared for the moment. That's what sports are. You have to take rep after rep after rep after rep. As a wide receiver in football, you have to run every single route as if you're going to catch the ball. Let me give you your reality as a receiver of a normal day for a receiver. You might run 50 reps, okay? You might run 50 different times you run a pattern, and of those patterns, say you might run 6 or 7 different routes. Every single one of those 6 or 7 different routes that you're going to get 50 times to run, it would best behoove you to run those routes at 80 to 100%. Because what's going to happen is this. That quarterback may throw you the ball 2 times that day. If you're prepared, he's going to see that you're prepared. He's going to throw those balls to you probably 2 more times the next time. The next time he's going to go, oh shit, he runs his routes hard every time. Before you know it, you become not probably the first priority, but you become right after his first priority, or the guy that he's used to throwing that ball to, he immediately starts seeing you. And then if you start running your routes more consistently than the number one guy, you just may become the number one guy. So it's all about what you're doing with the opportunities that you get.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is beautiful, Leland, because when you talk about football, in a lot of high schools, they like to run the spread, they like to run the no huddle, 5 wide air raid, is that they can throw the ball 35, 40 times a game, and you might only get one ball thrown at you.
True.
But what's going to happen if you drop that ball? Scratch it. What's going to happen if you catch it? If you catch that ball, you're going to get another one thrown to you. Yep. So, and I tell kids, you might literally get one opportunity, and what do you do with that opportunity? And like Coach Leland was saying, you got to run them routes. You got to run crisp routes and expect the ball. I've seen kids. I've seen it happen in tackle football. I've seen it happen in touch football. I've seen it happen in 7-on-7 football. Person not expecting the ball gets thrown to him, they drop the ball. Well, he ain't been throwing it to me anyway.
Right.
Well, you just got one. And you could have bought yourself another rep or another series where you can make plays.
Or you could be like a kid, Ryan, that we had on our youth football team. And I remember telling Ryan when I first seen him, because
he was a wrestler.
Yeah, he was a wrestler and a very good one. I said, I want you to play on my defensive and offensive line, and I'm going to make you the best defensive player in the league. He didn't answer that with okay or anything that had anything to do with what I just said. His next question to me was, okay, will you let me run the ball? Now understand what I'm going, it's going to be my top offensive and defensive lineman. And the question he asked me, okay, cool, but is it cool if I run the ball? And I looked at him because he gave me this confident look when he said that. I said, yeah, when I give you opportunity, yeah, you play, you do this for me, this is what we're going to do. I'll give you the ball. And you were at the game when I first gave him the ball. And he ran it back off of a kickoff. And I say that to say this. He gave me exactly what I wanted on the offensive and on the defensive line consistently. And when that one opportunity came up that I gave him to prove to me that he could run the ball, he was ready.
I think he ran back a kick. He was actually one of the better, not only athletes on the team, but one of the better running backs because he was strong and powerful. And again, it's like I said before, it goes back to his wrestling base where he just had a toughness that like 70% of the other kids, they just didn't have.
Right.
You know, so he was a pleasure to work with.
And people equate that to his mom and his dad for getting him involved in different sports while he was a youngster. He also played lacrosse, if I'm not mistaken, has some experience with soccer. It's a must. Get your child in a situation where you have him playing a multitude of sports.
Or her.
While they're young. You do a couple of different things. You give them a choice on really finding what their passion is, and then 2, you end up building a more well-rounded athlete. When you check and you look at the majority of your successful athletes today that's competing on an elite level, all of those individuals have another passion or something else that they do that they're really good at.
Yeah, and again, it brings us back to attitude on how to have a positive attitude.
Yep.
Because to have a positive attitude, you have to have a purpose. You have to have a goal. You have to have a direction. You have to have a project that you want to do. And whether it's play whatever sport, that could be volleyball, baseball, track and field, whatever sport you want to do, you have to have a goal. You have to have a direction. And when you have a direction, you have a goal, you have your purpose, your attitude is going to run accordingly. As long as, all of that makes sense, for the time and situation that you happen to be in.
True.
So again, it's about the attitude. Because when you have that attitude, you have that goal, you have that purpose. When you experience a setback, a loss, a difficulty, getting cut from a sport early on, you're going to come back, you know.
Now, since we're a team, I'm going to take my opportunity to say this. Now that we're coming up on the fourth quarter, if you guys know us, that's
He was just reading my mind. Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and say it.
Now that we're coming up on the fourth quarter, Deshaun, I want to know from you some of the beginning. What is some of the beginning things that you tend to do to try to foster that the attitude of your athletes? What happens when you get an athlete that may come to your sessions that are a little reluctant to understanding the purpose of what you do? You know, they may be a decent athlete, but you got them doing certain movements that they may look at as, you know, well, what does this have to do with me making a jump shot?
That's a real good question, Leland. And when I encounter situations like that, well, first of all, I don't anymore, because I talk when they call, and when the first time they come in, they watch a training session. But before that, I talk about their goals and objectives. You know, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your fears? You know, where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 4 years? Why are you here? Because I want to know that. Because then once we have that conversation, I can explain, we're doing an overhead squat for this reason. You know, I want to see what your shoulder stability is. I want to see what your T-spine mobility and stability is. Can you get into this position? Because you're going to have to get into this position in sports. Right. And this is a movement pattern. So even though they're doing it with their body weight or with the PVC pipe, and they might be one of the best athletes at 10th grade or 11th grade, but I tell them this isn't about right now. This is the discipline of having technique, and you coming in here having the right attitude and realizing that this girl that's in 12th grade that's been coming over here for 3 years, she can clean 95 pounds. Right. She can deadlift 185 pounds. Her form is impeccable.
Right.
You know, by my standards and the people, you know, my mentors and my coaches. And, you know, if I run something by you. So you're not going to come in here and just do what you want to do. There's going to be progressions that we go through. Everything is a progression. So for me to answer your question is getting them and convincing them to understand that. And these are things we get into before you even hit the training floor. Okay. You know, because you're coming to me for a reason, but I also explain to the parents that this is a process. Even the training is a process. It's not about numbers. It's not about weight. You know, we have to take our time and do things appropriately, because we want to leave them, you know, some space to where when they get to college, one, they're not hurt. They're not injured. I've never heard of you having an athlete getting injured strength training with you. I've never had a person get injured training with me, because I take my time being around other physical therapists, guys like Dave McHenry over at the Portland Athletic Center of Excellence and Therapeutic Associates. I know you know.
Hey, shout out to Dave.
Big shout out. One of the top manual physical therapists in the world, being connected with Sean Jenkins down in Stockton, Sports Performance in Stockton, California.
Shout out to my big head ass cousin.
We got people that we can talk to, but they hold us accountable.
They sure do.
You know, they hold us accountable. And that's what it's about. If you're a strength coach, personal trainer, you have to have people that hold you accountable, not from a big me, little you standpoint, but this is a collective where we share information.
My brother.
Where iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like Leland said, we're in the fourth quarter. So let me tell you, some of the benefits of having a good attitude is that you become a better decision maker. This is great practice for real life, the things that we're discussing. You can save your life. You can save somebody in your community. Think about those last two things. That might have been over your head. You can save your life by having a good attitude. You can save your community by having a good attitude. You heard me say the benefits. Some of the disadvantages of having a good attitude or striving to have a good attitude is that it's not going to be easy.
Right.
There's going to be challenges. Number two, it's not going to be popular. And the biggest thing, it's not always going to be fun. When you're trying to excel, it's not always going to be fun. Now, if you're listening to this and you just want to go play sports, have fun, be on certain teams where everybody gets a participation trophy, everybody gets a trophy at the end of the season, this episode might not be for you. I'm talking about high performers, peak performers, where we don't know what this outcome is going to be. Right. But you have to believe that there's something on the other side when it's dark and it's just you with a candle in a 300-foot tunnel. Sports parents, if you're looking for a program to help develop your student athlete, check out my course, The Edge, showing and helping the student athlete how to take effective action, developing discipline, showing them how to develop a growth mindset and expand their mind in the form of reflective thinking. This is the place you want to be. This is course. I want you to work through this course with your student athlete. It's not for them to go at it alone. This is a gap. This is a way to bridge the gap between the student athlete and sports parent and the student athlete and the coach. Check out my course, The Edge, at sportsmastery.thinkific.com. I'll also have a link in the show notes.